We haven't made a SaaS investment in 12 years. Yeah, it was just a delivery vehicle, and you can see where this was going. You really need to have intelligence built into it. Even then, the first gen AI capabilities have been disintermediated by the large hyperscalers. Now, the problem in America is about $1 trillion long investments in private equity and SaaS. They're probably impaired anywhere from 20 to 40%. Since they're leveraged, that 20 to 40% impairment may wipe out most, if not all, the equity. So, there's a lot of hurt in the world, and the best way to stay out of trouble is not to get into it in the first place.
And welcome to the Venture Victory podcast, where we look at the entrepreneurial journey from startup to exit. And I'm totally excited today. I've got Jamie Montgomery in the house. Jamie, how are you?
Great, getting better.
Well, I love that. This is really exciting if you don't know who Jamie is, because Jamie has been around in the tech scene for literally decades as an investment banker, as an investor, as a community builder, as someone who's held some of the greatest conferences, I think, on tech that we've had in the past 30 years. And so I'm really excited to have Jamie on. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what makes a great investor, where he would be looking today, what's the impact of AI. And it's going to be a fun conversation. So I'm totally excited. Jamie, I always like to do a quick intro because sometimes people aren't familiar with my guests. So I'm going to run this by, give it a shot, and let's go for it.
Okay.
Jamie Montgomery, you're the co-founder and managing partner of March Capital, where you invest growth capital in enterprise software, AI, cybersecurity, and infrastructure companies. March has raised close to $1.7 billion since inception a decade ago, including a $650 million fund in 2023. Gives us some perspective. You've built March into a firm known for backing companies at critical inflection points, such as the $70 million investment in CrowdStrike, which turned into well over $1 billion in value. You've made similar plays into companies like Snowflake, VeloCloud, BillDesk, and others that also provided very large outsized returns. You've been the founder and longtime host of the Montgomery Summit, gosh, now in its 23rd year. And I've attended many of these conferences, which have been truly amazing. Typically, you'll see convening over 1,000 entrepreneurs, enterprise executives of these companies, and investors that can kind of get to know each other. They're pitching deals. There's partnership opportunities. I'm assuming the 24th year, it's going to happen as well. And I want everybody to know about that. And then before launching March Capital, you spent 25 years, along with your brother Michael, building Montgomery and Company, which was an LA-based technology investment bank that advised hundreds of companies on IPOs, mergers, and growth financings. Uh, you earned your undergraduate degree from UC San Diego and have a master's degree in economics from the University of Cambridge. And throughout your career, you've been involved in mentoring founders, supporting communities, and other philanthropic activities. So it's really an honor to have you on the show today, Jamie. Nice to see
Thank
you.
you, Tim. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, I would love to just step back for a moment and talk about AI. I know as an investor, it's probably, if it's not the number one thing on your mind, it's close to number one. And I think everybody out there is talking about it every day. You can't get enough of it, from the political side to the business side. And of course, the fear that people are afraid of what's going to happen in AI. They're also excited about AI. So I wanted to step back. Over the past week or so, OpenClaw released their new they're the agentic agents, and there's a lot of things you can go online. You can see even on YouTube where people have taken over and they've literally built software through this instantly that can take over and act as a true agent for people. It feels like we're kind of crossing more than just like a technical milestone here. Some say it's another big tech inflection point. But if software can reason, adapt, and assemble itself around a problem, what does that really mean for the future of SaaS?
Well, yeah, you start off with a hard one. Huh? No softballs, Tim.
Well, look, you're putting a lot of money's going into it, so I know everybody's thinking about it. I know you are too, JV.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's no surprise what's going on. In my career, this is the fourth generation of software. And there was, starting off largely on-prem, and then you move to SaaS, and then cloud, and then AI. And each of these um, generations are probably an order of magnitude larger than the preceding generation, largely because the software can do more, and the delivery vehicle is much easier to deliver to small and medium business. So you can build a lot of business with a very small team nowadays using AI tools, and so you're no longer selling software. You're um, replacing human capital in many of these jobs. So your TAM was maybe a $400 billion SaaS software market, is now maybe a $6 billion market. And so again, that's more than an order of magnitude. And so the stakes are high. Now, if you look over the last 6 months or so, there's been a market cap transfer from SaaS companies to AI companies, and net it's about, the total amount's about the same. Funny enough, but there's hundreds of billions of dollars have drained out of the SaaS market cap, largely because they're seeing a reduction in growth in these companies. Uh, Look, some companies will be more challenged than others. That's always the case when you go through a generation change. The hyperscalers, for the most part, the large ones, Microsoft, Google's, AWS's, Oracle, even are pretty well positioned to continue to do well. Um, um, Vertical software with a lot of industry expertise is probably protected in that workflows are as more important than anything. Um, Systems of record, you know, software that sits on top of databases could easily be disintermediated because the AI could just go straight to the databases. And so there's certain horizontal tasks that could be, impacted, like Adobe, um, Salesforce, Workday. I'm not sure about. I think ServiceNow is kind of in between. CrowdStrike we continue to like because AI is creating as many opportunities as it is challenges, and it's an interesting world. There's a lot of volatility. I mean, we're not traders. We'd like to hold things for a long time, and if you do that, you have certain fundamental premises that we have. We usually come in years 2 to 5 of a company and help them scale, and you always have to ask yourself, are those assumptions still correct or not? um we're in our market. We You have to continually look at it, and I think most of our companies are on pretty solid footing, but that doesn't mean there isn't going to be a lot of volatility in the market. But look, at the end of the day, it's just a massive opportunity of wealth creation, and but what you've seen in the venture business has matured. There's probably 5 funds that now make up 30% of the venture world, and it's very similar to private equity. Though private equity is 5 funds at about 30% of the world, and then we're in that next tier down where we invest 600 to 750 every 3 years or so, and maybe about 15 companies. And we think that's a great place to be because, the larger funds might have 300 companies in them. We might have 30 across ours. And you're sort of buying the market when you buy one of those. And with us, you can get some specialization. And you indicated where we specialize in is really building applications on top of the AI infrastructure spend, which has been so massive. So, every time there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. There's always two sides to the coin. We're super excited about what's going on in the world, and it is the world. It's not just restricted to the United States. There's innovation everywhere, and there's great companies being built, and so no, as you said, in our long careers that we've had, this is the most dynamic and exciting time. Yeah.
I think when you're looking at making an investment, though, particularly in SaaS, do you ever get concerned that, again, so we have to look at whether the assumptions are still valid or not, but just the general idea that the pace of change is happening so quick and to the point of where we don't really understand where we're going to be in the next 3, 5, 10 years. How does that impact making a large investment in a software company?
Tim, we haven't made a SaaS investment in 12 years for that reason.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you could see it coming, and it didn't have intelligence in it from the word go. Now, maybe it was big data or machine learning or AI, but now it's
Yeah.
Gen AI. No, we stayed clear of that since our inception. We were very early in the SaaS 25 years ago, but it was just a delivery vehicle, and you
Yeah.
could see where this was going. You really need to have intelligence built into it. So we've even then, the first gen AI capabilities have been disintermediated by the large hyperscalers. Things like you'd have a software for a call center, and one product might be auto transcribe or auto summary, and those are features now that AWS or Microsoft would give away with Azure hosting. So a lot of the early AI applications have been disintermediated by the hyperscalers, and yeah, no, yeah, no, you can see this one coming from a mile away. Now, the problem in America, no one wants to talk about it. It's about $1 trillion long investments in private equity and SaaS. And, they're probably impaired anywhere from 20 to 40%. And since they're leveraged, that 20 to 40% impairment may wipe out most, if not all, the equity in the deal. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of hurt in the world, and we've managed to avoid that, Um, the best way to stay out of trouble is not to get into it in the first place, I mean,
You must have children.
yeah,
That sounds
I've
like dad.
got 4
That's
kids.
dad advice right there.
No, you just sort of watch and, maybe, if they're willing to listen to you, you can give them some advice. If they're not, beat your head against the wall. But, yeah.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. So obviously, the overall picture of AI is, um, there's so many people are terrified. I can't tell you. It seems like every conversation I have about AI, people are talking about the speed at which people are going to, not have jobs anymore, and you don't not going to need developers, you're not going to need radiologists, you're not going to need personal assistants. But then, like you and I, we're so excited about. There's never been a greater time to live, and you think of the potential for humanity. Where do you sit with this issue of job loss and cataclysmic events related to that? Or is that just a bunch of media hype and like all transformations in technology? There'll be a kind of a restructuring and new jobs are created and new industries will flourish.
Yeah, s I think you start off by asking about talking about the pace of change, and I think sometimes, technology can change more quickly than culture can keep up with, and then culture can change more quickly than some of the structures in society can adapt to, and that might be the education or other parts of society. So I don't think it's so much the change; it's probably the pace of change, which is the challenge. I mean, pick an area like radiology. There's probably 30,000 shortage of 30,000 radiologists in America, and so if you're in rural America and you want to get your radiology report read, you're probably out of luck. And maybe they'll put it on the internet and have some doctor in India read it in the middle of the night, you know, hopefully.
Yes.
And it's like, and, and so what does AI do for radiation? Radiation for, uh, for reading the scans. And so basically, it should read a scan. It should summarize the scan, identify any issues. So as soon as the scan's over, you have the result. The fact that you've got to wait 3 days or a week to get a scan read is just like silly. It's like going to the airport and going through a TSA screen and telling you have to wait a couple hours before you can tell what's in your bag. I mean, it's just it makes no sense whatsoever. So the fact that we don't screen using AI is unbelievable. So it's like, okay, it reads it, it's like you're fine. Or, you read it, we see something, we need to spend some time on it. You're not gonna have a shortage you know, of you're not gonna put radiologists out of business. What you're gonna do is you're gonna identify diseases earlier, you're gonna increase people's quality of life, you're gonna reduce the cost of healthcare. There's all these incredible benefits, and you think, "Okay, your personal assistant," still old school, still have one. What does AI allow you to do? I says, "Well, AI, she's using Canva today as we speak to create some
Right.
material." And Canva is an AI tool for we'll have a fantastic presentation done, and then we have another presentation we're using Gamma to produce. You go through it, and you see there like 5 hours of presentations done in 10 minutes. It's like okay, you know you're more productive, or you can do tasks over and above your PA. So you just have more and more skilled people just develop more and more skills, and they carry them with them in life. And I think it's a great opportunity. Now, some organizations or entities are resistant to change, education being one, healthcare is another, government
Sure.
is a third. And, this is where, you hear a lot of the complaints like, well, and, I think we really need to embrace AI in education to teach kids the benefits and challenges of it and how to use it to be successful in life. But, you think about the education, it's completely bloated, the system. Government, probably the worst case. We've gone from 2.1 million federal government employees a year ago to about 1.8 and dropping between last year and what's coming this year. And you look at it and say, we have 1.8 million government employees, 300,000 of them have the title human resource manager. We have 52 human resource management software systems. None of them are compatible. So you just say to yourself, now with automation, you could probably eliminate another 300,000 jobs in government, and no one's going to miss them. And now people would say, okay, that's cruel, but you have an aging workforce in the government, and and maybe you repurpose people for other jobs, but most of these things are like manual data entry and it's,
Sure.
it's insane. How do you have uh, one out of six federal government employees an HR manager? It's just insane. And none of the HR systems actually work. You could automate it all and get rid of about 300,000 of them. I mean, but this is the challenges and opportunities that we face. And are you being crass with that? Or are you basically saying, you know what? In education, why should it cost $80,000 to educate a college student? It's because you have all this bloat. Or why does it cost? Why is healthcare, you know, 20% of our economy? Well, it's because, you wait and even that's not very good. I mean, so you just have to say, all right, each one of these tasks is say, how could I do it better? And how can I reinvent the organization to be better? What does a modern university look like? Does it look like a traditional university? The kids, my grandkids, your grandkids even want to go to a 4-year university? I mean, these are, it's wonderful that I spent a couple of years at Cambridge, and the college was founded in, gosh, I don't know, 13 something or
13.
other.
Yeah.
And you think, well, they didn't even have electricity then, right? They didn't have water then. They didn't have bathrooms then. I mean, imagine there's like 20 monks hanging around, so, and that was a university. And you think about how it's changed, and it's going to be that, between our generation and our parents' generation, quite a bit of change, but compared to what the next generation is going to be massive about how people live, work, and play. I mean, it's extraordinary, and um, no, it's exciting. At the end of the day, though, I mean, you don't want to be. There are so many opportunities now. Are there challenges and bad dark side of it? Of course, and we have to mitigate that. But there's just so much opportunity, and I think you know, you know, if you can grow an economy at 2% a year, which people think is way understated, we can probably grow at 5% a year with AI coming on board. At 2% a year, you double everyone's standard of living in one generation. And, 5% a year, you double it in half a generation, quadruple it in one full generation. Imagine, and if you can quadruple the standard of living with 5% growth, I mean, the opportunity you have to do so much around public health and education and welfare. It's just, housing and dealing with these issues. You know, that's how,
Yeah.
you know, that environment, even California could balance the budget.
Well, I don't know if California will ever, even with AI, will ever be able to balance its
Sure they
budget.
will. I
But
mean, that's the beauty of it all. I mean, you can sit down and pose it and you start and think, "Oh, wow, I have that sort of economic growth. Look at the economic
yeah,
growth." Yeah.
that would be amazing. I think certainly in the range of healthcare as well, the implications are enormous. As you were mentioning earlier, a friend had been telling me that from the actuarial sciences was that in the turn of the last century, turn of the previous century in 1900, the average life expectancy of a male in the United States was, I think, 47 or 48 years old. So just think 125 years later, it's now 82. Just think of that percentage growth. We've almost I don't know, not doubled, but we're getting pretty close to it. In just 120 years, what will happen in the next 50 years, let alone the next 100?
Well, I think there's big things change, and I think if you go back 100 years ago, it was public health. It was clean water and vaccinations, and that made the biggest jump. And if you look at the next jump, I'll tell you what it's gonna be. First of all, I think GLP, it probably is the biggest drug ever, most impactful drug ever, more so than penicillin. And that will extend lives, because your major diseases are heart disease and cancer and various things were caused by inflammation, which are weight related. So that will be a major factor in U.S. public health. I think 20% of America is on GLP now. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, and
Except the new ones won't be in an injection at $1,000 a month.
yeah, no, the price always comes down, right? And and
Yeah,
and, and then when price comes down, usage goes up. And the other big increase in life expectancy will likely be from uh, the biggest killers. Well, you have self-driving cars, which is self-driving cars are much safer than non-self-driving cars. They're six, 7 times safer. And you think
I
about what
agree.
else do to your insurance rates and safety. So that comes down. But the biggest one I think will be cancer treatment. And again, it's tied back to AI in that how do you program? And I think CAR T treatments for right now for blood cancer, but soon it'll be for solid tumors. And then using programmable mRNA, um, we're using mRNA programmed by AI to fight diseases, including cancer, but other diseases, I think will radically change disease treatment. So you add those two things, you could have another 15 to 20 years of health to the American person. And you say, what does that have to do with AI? Well, it has everything to do with AI because without AI, you wouldn't be able to do these programmable health issues. So I think there's going to be major changes to life expectancy. The largest killers are cancers, including colon cancer is a bigger killer of women than breast cancer is, and it's very hard to diagnose. But using AI and non-obtrusive scans will be able to find it easier. So there's a lot of benefits coming through in healthcare, and will extend the life as well. And I think it's hard for people to understand what's really going on because you sort of sit there and you watch the Super Bowl and you see the Anthropic ads, which are kind of amusing, and you see all these GLP ads, and you go, God, but you
A lot of
realize that,
those.
the benefits of it are just staggering, for a wide range of diseases. So it's, I think we could be in another golden era, not just of prosperity, but of, longevity, increase in longevity of another 10, 20%.
So when you invest and you're thinking about AI and these different kind of areas of huge tectonic transformation, how do you think about that? Are you looking at like layers for example, with AI, you're looking at you invest in the applications layer, which we talked at the top of the funnel, but you also go downstream vertically in
Yeah.
terms of the data centers, cooling systems, energy production.
No,
Is
no.
that
Yeah,
yeah,
I think we stay out of the, energy. I mean, I think it's probably a great opportunity in the hardware side.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a massive shortage of, compute capability for tokenization, and so we have a play there that's doing very well. Together AI, where we're, working with, all the hyperscalers to, increase the capability for inference, and We have some
Yeah.
unique software there, which I think will build us a big company. I think, one area we've looked at is what can we do with Gen AI that you just couldn't do before? So sort of a little hard to describe if it's never done before. And one area we would refer to it as scientific superintelligence, SSI. And there um, superintelligence is defined as 10,000 times more than human intelligence. And there we're trying to apply AI, uh, advanced AI to new materials, new chemicals, new compounds. And we're building a company there, and it's quite exciting. We've had massive progress and success. It's called Lila Sciences out of Cambridge, Mass. That's one. We're trying to build an open source LLM. That's a challenge. But we're grinding it out. And we have another company. We're using mRNA and AI to be able to reprogram DNA to eliminate diseases, cure diseases at the base level.
Yeah.
Go in and give you a single
Wow.
injection. Go in and rewrite your DNA, eliminate the defects in it, and cure inherited diseases like sickle cell or cystic fibrosis or something along those lines. So
That is
we think
incredible.
those are frontier ideas that we think are massive. Then we have the more, you know, blocking and tackling, vertical software, legal process automation or supply chain visibility or contact center automation or medical claims, dental records, whatever. You just pick areas that you can automate with AI. And then we have more horizontal plays across, which could be database software to enable agentic AI or um, various forms of advanced Gen AI enabled application software that are horizontal or cybersecurity. So yeah, we have about 30 companies now. Most of them are doing really pretty well right now, and we usually lead or co-lead investments, and we're hands on, so we're engaged. So yeah,
Do you think all those years as the investment bank advising companies and helping raise capital for them, did that prepare you to be a much, much better investor? I mean, on the surface, sure, but I guess I'm asking is how did all those experiences, all those company reviews, really kind of frame the way you look at making investments today?
yeah, God, yeah. Well, no question. I mean, um, it's interesting. As an advisor, we'd always try and have alignment with our entrepreneurs and give them honest opinion, honest feedback, and do the right thing. And as your investor, when you after you've invested, you really have to put the company first, and
Yeah,
that um, you know uh, perspective of and governance and fiduciary responsibility to all the shareholders and the company and we just have a lot of experience at helping executives um, scale up and finance and grow, and we'd be their advisor. And now we're their investor. It's seen thousands of companies and been in thousands of situations, and they oftentimes look familiar. The key thing is, we always um, try and figure out what's best for the company, and there are times as an advisor, we tell people, you really don't want to do this deal. And people would, what? I never had a banker tell me that. So you ought to hang out with us more often. I mean, because, you just say it's 70% of the time they fail, and oftentimes, it's going to fail. And someone's, is pushing it along. They have an ego, and you get to the senior management, you just take them aside, look, this one is going to hit the rocks. And, these are our concerns. And if you do it, okay. But, just want you to know. And sometimes they call them, God, I should have listened to you, or someone else buys it and say, oh, I'm glad I listened to you. But, you're not trying to be a cynic. You're just trying to be, be honest with people, not hold back. You don't want to be the one that said, "Oh, I wish I'd said this." You just say, "I'm really concerned about this," and you have that as an investor. You say, "I don't really understand this. Explain it to me," or "I'm not quite comfortable with this yet." And then there's no rush. I mean, we'll look at a company for a year, 2 years before we
Oh,
invest,
wow.
so we can get comfortable with it. And it's not like we're like, "Look, it's not like we don't believe you. It's just maybe we just don't understand it," and explain to me again why this is going to work. And oftentimes people come back and say, "You asked us the best questions. It really forced us to rethink our strategy. We're so much better off for those meetings we had with you. And well, we didn't invest." "That's all right. You gave us more value in those meetings than our investors gave who invested." Oh my God. I mean, so you're just trying to be helpful, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and that's all you can be is every day is like, how can we be helpful? I always ask everybody that every call, how can we be helpful? Right? And we
yeah,
mean it.
yeah,
And if you take the long run, good things happen. And good things happen to good companies too. Sometimes people will get involved in something. "Oh, we can just do this, this, and this, it'll work." And I'm like, boy, you don't get paid extra for degree of difficulty, right? If something, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you invest, these are your problems. I got enough issues as it is, and so, we, we, we're in companies for 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, on average. And you have 4 to 6 board meetings a year, and you times that by 7, that could be 40 turkey sandwiches you have to have board. I mean, do you really want to have 40 turkey sandwiches with, I mean, it's a big question, right?
Of course.
I was looking for a new CEO last year for one of our companies. I interviewed 30 candidates. That's more dates than I went on when I got married, I mean,
Well,
I just
that's as an executive recruiter, we can have it. There's something went off on that process for to see
yeah, well,
30.
I mean,
Yeah,
exactly. And we actually got someone really good, but there were too many meetings. I'm like, "Well, what the hell am I doing here?" Some of them are
yeah,
comical, but we got a great person in the end, and we have a happy ending.
yeah. That's
Sometimes
awesome.
you just find yourself in these unreal situations, and you just have to keep, your wits about you and take the long-term view that, everyone does their job, everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
kind of rambled there. I hope I answered your question, Tim.
no, you absolutely did, and you absolutely in a pretty funny way as well. So, hey, so I look, you're a father. I'm a father.
Yeah,
I've got 4 kids that range from 21 down to 13.
wow,
And this is kind of a dad question
okay.
because I think if you're a father and you have a lot of teenagers and kids in college or thinking about college or just getting out of college, they're talking to their parents a lot about this and they have these concerns too. And just if your kids were kind of this age again, maybe you have one or two in there, but if they were, how would you help them to think about the future with all this massive change? Like I said, people are like, I shouldn't become an engineer anymore because that's going to be outdated. I shouldn't do this because that's going to become outdated. I feel that a lot of young people are kind of lost in direction in terms of what to do because they don't really know what the game's going to look like, and their parents don't know what this game's going to be going to look like. So, kind of, how would you provide a roadmap for them? How would you encourage your own kids if they were that age today, based on this technology change that we see every day?
Yeah. Well, and we have 4 as well, and congratulations, it's a lot of fun.
It
Ours are
is.
29 to, 31, 33, and 35, and the issues, probably aren't a whole lot different. I think, I found, and I meet with young people every week to have this conversation, or family, friends, or investors, and I've found my approach has been very much like a optometrist, where I never really give them advice. I just ask questions, this or this, this or that, this or this. And you do about 15 of those and they see clearly. And they're like, wow, I can see it. Yeah, that was great. And sometimes you go way off course and you got to start over again. And I think, it's understanding that driving and understand that only they can themselves derive about, you know, where their passion really is and what their interests are and what they're good at, and and how to and then question is how do you build towards that? How do you build the building blocks to have a career there? And oftentimes these are careers that don't exist or didn't exist in the parents' generation. I always say, parents have their own best interests at heart, and it's very difficult for a parent to disassociate their own interest from what the advice their kids are going to get. You see a lot of lawyers that tell their kids to be lawyers, and you know, doctors they can become doctors. And obviously, if there's a passion or interest there, fine. But yeah, and I think it's and oftentimes you'll see a child a real talent that they have that they may not appreciate. They may see it, may not appreciate it, they may not believe it, they may not, feel like it's that differentiated, and you see it, and could be a gift with children, or an artistic talent, or creative talent, or ability to lead, and how do you kind of mentor them, um, to get to the place where they can be most successful, and coach them along those lines. And it's you know, and so kid comes to me, I'll usually ask them, about what do they really like doing, where do they find they're in a flow and they're successful, and really have them open up because they say, I really like organizing things, for example. You go, okay, and give me an example, and what part of that did you enjoy? And then they say, I think I'm creative. Well, give me an example, and then they'll say, but I also really I have great attention to detail, and okay, well, and then you sort of draw a Venn diagram, and you start saying, what are some of the things in that diagram? And they say, wow, I never thought of that, or and then is this something? Have you thought about that? I thought about that. But I didn't know how to go about doing that. But yeah, I'd be really interested in that. And you're not really telling them what to do, you're helping them discover themselves, and I find that's the only way to do it, and it's you gotta do it in person, and you gotta do it one-on-one usually, and, with a little bit of time, and, 45 minutes to an hour, and, it's not easy, Christ, Tim, I have those meetings every week, and people say, "Oh, you're so good with the kids, you give them." And I swear I don't give them advice, I just, kinda listen to them and try and help them discover, and, you know, one of my own kids came to me in spring break senior year, I hadn't really I said, "Oh, don't worry about recruiting, at college, so, you don't wanna go work for Deloitte and Touche like all these other guys, just we'll get to spring break and we'll have lunch. I'm old school. We'll talk about it. We have lunch. He's nervous as all hell. I go, so what are you interested in? He says, oh, I'm interested in, I really like national security courses, and I like entrepreneurship, and I like tech. I said, okay. So I drew a little diagram and I said, well, cybersecurity would be in the middle of that. And I said, where do you want to live? LA or Bay Area or Southern California? Well, Southern California initially. I said, all right, well, why don't you go see the best cyber company in Southern California? Send the CEO a note, tell me I want to come see him. This is his name and email. And sure enough, that was his path to success. The guy hired him and said, you know, I think he could be a great executive one day. I'm going to put him into product, beat the hell out of him, make sure he learns how to do that, and then we'll move him to other roles. And exactly what happened. But wasn't like, hey, you should go work in cyber,
Yeah.
even like plastics from The Graduate, it's like, what are you interested in? And then if you're interested in those things, then it plays out. If you're not interested in doing something, it could be you're interested in people, you're interested in health, you're interested in, and maybe you'd be a nurse for a while, but you really want to be a nurse manager or something. I mean, you just don't know what it is, but let's go figure that out. And that's so important. And I
I,
think,
uh, I
yeah,
had no idea you had all these wonderful, therapist skills for young people in addition to investing in companies. I really love what you're
Well, maybe
talking about. And
I scare the hell out of them. Say, listen to this. I don't know what it is.
I don't think so. I'm really paying a lot of attention to this because it does affect me personally, and I love what you're saying because I think so often you're trying to figure out, like, what's the next great industry to go into, and this idea of a process of self-discovery. Because if you're not motivated to do something and excited by life, it doesn't matter what industry you go into. So, and I've tried to do that with my different kids as well. Sometimes, as you know, they don't exactly know what they want to do or even what's going to
You
motivate them
feel
at a young
sorry for your
age.
oldest kid? Is it kinda like a pancake? You always screw the first one up, you know?
My first one came out of the box perfect.
There you
Knew
go.
exact when you have a 4-year-old daughter that says, "When I grow up, I want to be a jet pilot," and, that's
Oh,
exactly what
oh,
she's
that's
never changed her
fantastic.
story and is doing it. That's an easy one.
Alright, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah.
it's you just wonder when you first have kids that you're amazed they allow you to take them home from the hospital, like
I know it is. It's incredible being a parent. Well, hey, I'd love to just to kind of wrap this up because we try to keep these around 40 minutes. For the Venture Directory podcast, I always end it with the same question, and the question is, Jamie, what does it mean to you, whether it's in business, family, philanthropic activities, or just life in general? What does it mean to you to be victorious?
victorious. Oh, such a noble word. I never
Yes.
think about it, victorious. It's not really in my vocabulary.
No?
I mean,
Well, you've had a lot of victories, so you've
but
experienced it.
that's not the point. The
I
point
think
is that
so.
can every place we be better after we've been there? For me, that's victory. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you send your kids to a school and afterwards university or you're involved in a company or an organization, if whatever you do, church, all the stuff we do in the community, never think about it in those terms of victorious. I think success for us is that we just, improve people's lives, one at a time. And that, if I can walk down the street and, everyone's happy to see me because for whatever reason, for me, that's victory, it's like, I had one guy come to see me, a young VC, and he said, "Oh, I want to be like Jamie Montgomery. I want to come see you." I said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah." So I took him for a walk around Santa Monica and I showed him about 20 businesses I put back on their feet after the riots here and gave them grants. And then all these people in the street would stop me and ask me for, advice or something. I go, "You still want to be Jamie Montgomery?" He goes, "No." He thought somehow you're successful and it's great. I go, It's just no. It's just you get up every morning and it's my life has been pretty simple. It hasn't changed since I was a kid. There's God, country, family, and
Yeah.
then you have a career that you're happy with, and you use that to help out your church and your community, and you do some work for the country pro bono, and God, you're never wondering what victorious. Victorious is helping other people succeed, helping other people have happy lives, having other people have healthy lives. Victory for me is last night I picked up yesterday, I picked up a report from a local health clinic that we support and showed how many people they were helping. Oh, isn't that nice? For me, that's nice. Or, hey, the scholarship this kid we gave is doing this. For me, that's victory. It's not
Yeah.
about me
Yeah.
at all.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And when my daughters were little, I used to, and particularly my oldest daughter, we used to every night before we went to bed, I used to say, what are the three most important things in life in order? And they were God, country, family. So, um,
Well, good for
and
you.
I think just your answer alone, there's nobility in that answer as there is in the word. And what a great answer! I think a life where you can look back and say, I put other people in front of me even though I was rewarded handsomely for my success. But that's where the priority was put, and improving the lives of other people is a super excited way to live. And
Good.
what a great way to end this discussion,
Thank
Jamie. And of course, it's been 30 years I've known you, and you've always been such a gracious guy. You were gracious to me in the very beginning when I was starting out, and I've just that's kind of been the word I've gotten back from so many people over the years that have worked with you as a banker and an investor. And I didn't know this secret ability. It's almost like you need a YouTube channel for advising young people on finding themselves for career choices, because it's becoming a real issue. And
It is. It's hard on them, and you
it
have to
is.
be empathetic. I'm sure I'd get canceled pretty quickly because of my humor.
Well, I don't think so. Well, hey,
Uh,
it's been an honor to have you on here, and much success in 2026. Thanks, Jamie. Cheers, everybody.
The Venture to Victory podcast is provided by MatchStar Venture Search. If you're interested in any of our open executive roles or need help sourcing world-class talent for your company, check out our website at matchstar.com.